Welcome to the Ramayana reading from the story of Lord Ram by His Holiness Bhaktivedanta Swami, compiled by Swami Bhaktivedanta Swami, and we are on the Yuddha kanda at the moment, and it's all about the battle going on the battlefield between Lord Ram and Ravan, and Ravan has been losing one after another the big names from his camp. So let's begin where we left from last time. Mahapashva collapsed to the ground, bathed in his own blood, and as he struggled to recover his strength, Rishabh took away his spiked iron club. But before the monkey chief could attack, Mahapashva got up and punched him, making him fall down in a daze. Rishabh quickly recovered and again picked up the iron club, smashing it against Mahapashva's chest. Blood gushed out from the wound, but still the Rakshas attempted to take the club from Rishabh's hands. Before he could retake the club, the monkey chief smashed him over the head with it, causing the Rakshas to fall down dead. His eyes and teeth completely crushed in. As the Rakshas army began to flee in fear, the giant Rakshas Atikaya attacked the monkeys from his chariot. Seeing Atikaya's colossal size, they thought that Kumbhakaran had come back to life and fearfully ran for the shelter of Ram. Ram was also amazed to see the gigantic Rakshas and thus inquired about him from Vibhishan. Vibhishan explained, "This monstrous Rakshas named Atikaya is the son of Ravan and Dhanyamalini. By performing severe austerities, he satisfied Lord Rama, thus receiving benedictions, granting him immunity from death at the hands of demigods and demons. Lord Rama also awarded Atikaya weapons, armor, and a chariot. He thus became extraordinarily powerful. O Ram, in previous battles, Atikaya was able to counteract the thunderbolt of Indra and the noses of Varun. You should kill him at once before he eliminates the entire army of monkeys." While Vibhishan was speaking, many of the monkey leaders attacked Atikaya, but the huge Rakshas tore to pieces all of the trees and mountain peaks that they hurled at him. As he began shooting the monkeys with his arrows, Atikaya appeared to be unconquerable. Although he would not fight with any monkey that was not willing, leaving the monkeys aside, Atikaya rushed at Ram, challenging him with insulting words. This enraged Lakshman, who took up his bow and rushed at the Rakshas. Although Atikaya was astonished to hear the twanging of Lakshman's bow, he took his own arrow and said, "You are merely a youngster and you should leave the battlefield while you are still able to do so. Why do you foolishly stand before me, acting as if you want to give up your life?" Lakshman's anger flared even more after hearing his haughty words, and he replied with similar challenge. As Atikaya placed an arrow on his bowstring, the demigods appeared overhead, anxious to see the upcoming duel. Atikaya released his arrow and Lakshman split it in half with his own, prompting the irritated Rakshas to quickly send 5 more. Lakshman again cut them off and responded with a powerful arrow that pierced Atikaya's forehead, causing him to tremble violently. After recovering himself, Atikaya praised Lakshman as a worthy opponent and then released a deluge of arrows. Lakshman continued to foil Atikaya's arrows, causing the enraged Rakshas to shoot an especially powerful arrow that entered Lakshman's chest. Although bleeding profusely, Lakshman took out an arrow and empowered it with a mystic mantra from the fire god Agni. When Lakshman released the arrow, Atikaya employed a Surya weapon to counteract it. The 2 arrows collided in the sky, reducing each other to ashes and falling to the ground. Atikaya then released the Twashta weapon and Lakshman counteracted it with the Indra weapon. Atikaya then discharged a Yama weapon and Lakshman neutralized it with the Vayu weapon. Lakshman then released a steady stream of arrows, but they simply bounced off to Atikaya's armor and fell to the ground. Lakshman shot 1,000 more arrows, but the undisturbed Atikai was able to pierce him with a single shaft in the chest. Causing him to fall unconscious. When Lakshman recovered, he was able to knock down Atikai's flag and then killed his horse and the charioteer. However, despite releasing his most powerful arrows, Lakshman could not even slightly wound the Rakshas. At this time, Vayu approached Lakshman saying, "The armor Atikai wears was formerly given to him by Lord Brahma. And is impenetrable, therefore you should employ your Brahmastra and vanquish him, vanquish your enemy." Lakshman fitted his ultimate weapon onto his bowstring and fired it at Atikai. The Rakshas shot many arrows to counteract the Brahmastra. When he saw that the weapon remained unimpeded, he began to hurl spears. Clubs and axes. Indeed, the Brahmastra quickly knocked off Atikai. When he saw that the weapon remained unimpeded, he began to hurl the spears, clubs and axes, but to no avail. Indeed, the Brahmastra quickly knocked off Atikai's enormous head, and the severed head rolled on the ground. The dejected Rakshasas rushed back to the shelter of Lanka, when the monkeys ran to congratulate Lakshman. Upon hearing the news of Atikai's death, Ravan became deeply depressed, feeling the situation hopeless. He brooded, "Rama and Lakshman are inconceivably powerful. With their astonishing prowess, they have already slain the best of my warriors. I can now understand that Ram is the Lord Narayan himself." So we can see that at last Ravan is getting the realization that Ram is the Lord Narayan himself. In a human form, although I have previously been informed of this fact, I considered it to be merely the ravings of cowards and fanatics. Who can possibly defeat Ram? Turning to his ministers, Ravan said, "Make certain that the city's gates are heavily guarded. Increase the security around the Ashoka Grove. I want everyone to remain on full alert to watch the enemy's movements." Seeing his father with tears in his eyes and overwhelmed by grief and lamentation, Indrajit spoke up. "As long as I am still alive, there is no reason for you to grieve in this way, my dear father. I promise you that I will kill Ram and Lakshman this very day." With the blessings of his father, Indrajit went to his sacrificial altar. He then took a living goat by the neck and threw it into the sacrificial fire as an offering. At once the fire flared brilliantly, forecasting victory for Ravan's pet son. So Indrajit was the pet son of Ravan, or the favorite son. Then Agni himself came out of the flames to accept the offering. Thereafter Indrajit invoked the mantras that enabled himself, his donkey-drawn chariot, and all his paraphernalia to become visible. After dispatching his army to attack the enemy, Indrajit took an invisible position in the sky and began raining down his arrows upon the monkey soldiers. The monkeys attempted to retaliate by hurling numerous trees and rocks at the point where they thought the arrows had originated, but the Rakshasa deflected all the missiles while continuing to cut down as many as 9 monkeys with a single arrow. Indrajit then invoked the Brahmastra, causing heaven and earth to tremble. That supreme weapon produced countless arrows which knocked all the monkey warriors onto the ground. Millions fell dead instantly. The invisible Indrajit continued to shower down spears, swords and axes. The bewildered monkeys could see the weapons as they fell from the sky, but were unable to sight their assailant. Even Hanuman, Sugriv, Neel and Jambavan fell to the ground wounded, and Ram and Lakshman appeared to be eclipsed by Indrajit's weapons. Although covered by arrows, Ram remained undisturbed, saying, "O Lakshman, I can understand that Indrajit is releasing arrows surcharged with the power of Lord Brahma. As long as this powerful Rakshas remains invisible, no one will be able to conquer him. Therefore, it is best if we let ourselves to be overcome by his arrows. When Indrajit sees that we have fallen unconscious, he will surely consider himself victorious and return to Lanka to inform Ravan." Ram and Lakshman became seriously wounded by Indrajit's arrows and fell down unconscious to the ground. Seeing his enemies vanquished, Indrajit exulted with joy and returned to Lanka to tell his father. The surviving monkeys became exceedingly depressed to see Ram and Lakshman's condition. Vibhishan assured them, "O great heroes, do not lament, for Ram and Lakshman have voluntarily put themselves in this helpless condition, just to honor the weapons of Lord Brahma. Very soon they will rise up and vanquish the enemy." Hanuman then offered his respects to Brahmastra and said, "The fighting has subsided and night has fallen. Therefore, our first business should be to restore the remaining monkeys to confidence." Hanuman and Vibhishan then took up torches and began to wander over the battlefield. There they saw Sugriv, Angad, Neel, Nal and some 6 million monkeys lying on the ground, all struck down by Indrajit's Brahmastra. They found Jambavan severely wounded and unable to see. Jambavan inquired, "Is Hanuman still living?" Vibhishan asked him, "Why have you inquired about Hanuman and not about Ram, Lakshman, Sugriv and Angad?" Jambavan replied, "If Hanuman is living, then the army is still intact, even it is apparently massacred. But if Hanuman is dead, then the entire army is destroyed, even if the soldiers are apparently alive." Hearing this, Hanuman came forward, clasping Jambavan's feet. He said, "Rest assured that I am well." Jambavan instructed him, "Go quickly to the Himalayas and locate the Rishabh mountain. Between Rishabh and Kailash is an effulgent mountain covered with powerful medicinal herbs that illuminate all directions. You must gather 4 of these herbs and bring them back here. These herbs are Mrit Sanjeevani, which can restore even a dead man back to life; Vishalya Karani, used for extracting weapons and healing wounds; Suvarna Karani, which restores the body's original luster; and Sandhani, which is used for healing fractured bones and joining severed limbs. If you can produce those herbs, then all the monkey heroes who have lost their lives can be revived." Hanuman became enlivened and swelled up with renewed energy. After going to the Trikut mountain, Hanuman squatted down in preparation for a tremendous leap. The mountain peak crumbled from his pressure and trees burst into flames from the friction he generated. Likewise, Lanka's palaces and city gates began to collapse, and the entire city trembled, striking all the citizens with fear. Hanuman first jumped to the Malay mountains on the opposite side of the sea, further expanding him. Hanuman bowed to the sun god, then again leapt into the air, drawing up huge rocks and trees in his wake and soaring through the air at the speed of wind. Hanuman soon sighted the Himalayan mountains with their golden peaks. After sighting Mount Rishabh and Mount Kailash, Hanuman located the mountains situated between them that Jambavan had described and was astonished to see its blazing effulgence. Hanuman searched frantically all over the mountain for the required herbs. However, the creepers had hidden themselves upon sensing the arrival of an intruder, so Hanuman could not locate them. Hanuman roared ferociously and challenged, "O mountain, if you try to impede the service of Lord Ram, I shall smash you into millions of tiny pieces." Receiving no response, Hanuman decided that if he could not find the herbs, he had better bring the mountain and let Jambavan find them for himself. Breaking off the top of the mountain, Hanuman sprang into the air and quickly flew the 1,000 yojans to Lanka. As he landed on the peak of Trikut mountain, all the monkeys shouted with joy. Jambavan quickly gathered the required herbs and placed them below the nostrils of Ram and Lakshman for them to inhale, upon which their wounds were immediately healed. The herbs were then administered to the wounded monkeys, who all sprang to their feet as though rousing from a sound sleep. Even the monkeys that were previously killed were instantly revived by the herbs. Hanuman then quickly returned to the Himalayas and put the mountain peak back in its place. Hanuman had completed the entire mission in just one day. When he returned to Lanka, night had already fallen. Sugriv told him, "My dear Hanuman, since all the dead Rakshas have been thrown into the ocean on Ravan's order, we cannot estimate how many of them have been killed. Nevertheless, of all the Ravan's sons, only Indrajit still survives. Thus Lanka is now defenseless. I suggest we take up torches and invade the city at night to throw the enemy into confusion." The monkeys soon began their march to Lanka. When they approached the city gates, the Rakshasa guards fled in the fair. The monkeys were able to enter without a fight, with torches in hands. The monkey soldiers ran through the streets of Lanka, setting all the palaces, gates and walls ablaze, and the fire raged in all directions. Thousands of burning buildings toppled to the ground, and the whole of Lanka was in pandemonium. Burnt Rakshasas and animals ran wildly in all directions, wailing in anguish. Ram and Lakshman took up their bows. When Ram twanged his bowstring, the sound was heard above the clamour, striking terror into the hearts of Rakshasas. Ram then destroyed Lanka's principal gate with a barrage of arrows. When Lakshman saw the destruction, he became mad with rage. When Ravan saw the destruction, he became mad with rage. The Rakshas king dispatched Kumbh and Nikumb, the sons of Kumbhakaran, along with many Rakshasas, heroes including Yupaksha, Sonitaksha, Brajanga and Kampan. Both the monkey and Rakshas armies were eager to combat. Thus, when the battle ensued outside the gates of Lanka, the fighting was especially fierce. Amidst the slaughter of warriors on both sides, Angad suddenly rushed at Kampan. But when the Rakshas struck him with his mace, Angad fell backwards, bereft of consciousness. The prince quickly recovered, and after picking up a huge mountain peak, he hurled it at Kampan, smashing him to death. The enraged Sonitaksha then rushed at Angad on his chariot and riddled him with arrows, but without faltering, Angad smashed the Rakshas's chariot and bow with his bare hands. Sonitaksha was forced to jump down from his disabled carrier and take up his sword and shield. Angad quickly went and captured Sonitaksha, and after snatching the sword from his hand, slashed him with it. As Sonitaksha fell wounded, Angad rushed off to the fight with other Rakshas chiefs. Yupaksha and Prajanga came to interpret Angad, while Sonitaksha got up and followed him from behind. Menda and Dvividha then rushed to Angad's aid, and the three monkeys locked in a fierce battle with the Rakshas heroes. As the monkeys bombarded the Rakshasas with trees and mountain peaks, the Rakshasas tore them to pieces with their weapons. Prajanga rushed at Angad wielding a sword, but the son of Vali struck him down with a tree before he could attack. As Prajanga tried to stand up, Angad punched him, knocking him to the ground unconscious. Seeing this, Sonitaksha rushed forward and suddenly brought down his fist upon Angad's forehead. Although he was momentarily dazed, Angad quickly recovered, so that when Prajanga rushed again with renewed vigor, the prince was able to decapitate him with a mere slap of his hand. After witnessing the death of his uncle on the battlefield, Yupaksha got down from his chariot. Then with tear-filled eyes, he rushed impetuously at Dvividha, sword in hand, Dvividha caught hold of the onrushing Rakshas and began pounding him repeatedly in chest. Seeing his brother captured, Sonitaksha ran up to the Dvividha and violently struck him in the chest with his mace. Dvividha reeled back in a daze, but as Sonitaksha lifted his mace to strike again, Dvividha caught hold of the weapon and wrested it from the Rakshasa's hand. Meanwhile, Menda arrived on the scene and struck Yupaksha in the chest with his hand. Soon Dvividha and Menda became locked in a wrestling match with Yupaksha and Sonitaksha. Dvividha tore at Sonitaksha's face with his sharp nails and then, dashing him to the ground, crushed the Rakshas to death with his knees. Menda then pressed Yupaksha tightly in his arms, squeezing the life out of his body. After the death of these two heroes, the Rakshasa soldiers fearfully took shelter of Kumbh. The son of Kumbhakaran struck Dvividha down with arrow, making him writhe on the ground in pain. Menda then hurled a huge rock while rushing at Kumbh. But the Rakshas broke it to pieces with 5 arrows. Then with other arrow, Kumbha struck Menda in the chest, making him fall unconscious. Seeing his 2 uncles fall severely wounded, Angad became enraged and madly rushed at Kumbha, seeking revenge. Although the numerous arrows struck him as he advanced, Angad remained unshaken. He released a shower of rocks upon Kumbha's head. However, Kumbh shattered the rocks that pierced Angad's eyebrows with 2 arrows. Despite the flowing blood covering his vision, Angad managed to grab a huge tree and hurl it at Kumbha. As the Rakshas cut it to pieces, Angad fainted to the ground, too afflicted from his numerous wounds. The monkeys then went to Ram and told him of Angad's plight. Ram dispatched Jambavan and other monkey leaders to go to Angad's aid. As the monkey warriors approached, however, Kumbh checked them with a shower of arrows. Sugriv then rushed at Kumbh, throwing numerous trees. The Rakshas, however, cut all the trees apart and shot Sugriv with numerous arrows. Still, Sugriv remained undaunted and he continued to advance within reach of Kumbh's chariot. Okay, we will resume our reading of Ramayana from here onwards next time. Thanks for watching. Hariyam Tat Sat and Hare Krishna.